God's grace. Someone to lead us to volunteer Rebecca, you can, Rebecca Faith, you can lead us in the opening prayer.
Let's humble ourselves for a word of prayer. Almighty Father, we'd like to thank you for this day. We'd like to thank you for the Father that you have brought us. Father, as we start this class, please may you bless us with the knowledge and understanding to understand whatever our teachers are going to teach us. And please bless our teachers so that they may teach us to the best of their ability. We want to thank you for our parents and the teachers who organized and facilitated these classes. We pray that you may continue blessing the work of their hands. The Lord's name I have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much, Faith.
that wonderful prayer. Do you have the slides, Teacher Flavio?
That's why I was looking for Mr. Semogere. But we can start with this.
Mr. Muchala Seria.
Wanji.
Bade mayinza atalaba.
Gwatalaba.
A screen. Wedo sharing.
Mbade sinaba sharing.
Okay.
Well, girls, has been a while. This lockdown affected you, the senior twos, and more so the senior twos of Gayaza, not only Gayaza, but you, together with other schools in the category. We have a little bit with, we are trying to catch up with these other friends, and if not, we might have overtaken them. We were looking at, you give me the
Canadian
previous slide.
playlist.
You first give me the previous slide.
We're looking at the characteristics.
Yes. We can start from there. Younger ladies, if you are to understand the geography of an area, any area, you first of all look at the physical geography of that place. In senior one, we say that geography is the study of man and his environment. We say that geography is divided into basically two branches: the physical environment, or the physical geography, and the human geography. We also say that the physical geography has got 4 components, and we said one is the atmosphere that deals with the climate or the solar system, the biosphere, living things, plants and the animals, the hydrosphere, that is water, and the lithosphere that which deals with the rocks. Whatever man does, and whatever man does is dependent on the physical environment, the 4 components. They influence either positively or negatively the interests of man. If we are to look at the Canadian prairies, we got the definition last time, and we were saying that it is an extensive area covered with temperate grassland. And therefore, we are talking of temperate grassland. In senior one, you looked at the earth. When you were looking at the earth, you divided the earth into regions. You looked at the tropical region, which is 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south of the equator. Then you looked at the temperate region. I'm looking at where the word temperate comes from. Temperate region. It lies between 23.5 degrees north to 66.5 degrees north of the equator, and also in the south within the same range, meaning the land between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle in the north, the Tropic of Capricorn and the Antarctic Circle in the south. Over and above 66.5 degrees north and south of the equator. That is above the Tropic of the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle in the south. That region is known as the polar region. Classic example of the area of the earth that lies in the polar region is the Greenland. It's very cold. Now, what happens? Between zero along the equator to 23.5. What I'm trying to explain, it needed an illustration, but I'm referring you to senior 1.1. Between that region, the temperatures are hot throughout the year because of the equinox, because of it is a strategic location between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Over and above the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, north and south of the equator, these areas experience a change in rainfall, a change in temperature as a result of the revolution of the earth around the sun. Hope girls, you can copy that senior 1 work. Therefore, those areas have 4 seasons of the year: winter, spring, summer, autumn, and back to winter, or the reverse is true. That is where we get the temperate interior, the word temperate, because it lies North America and specifically Canadian prairies is in the temperate region, and it is a cool region because of the movement of the earth. The factors influencing, first of all, the characteristics of this climate.
Mr. Chairman, can I say
that is so beautiful as teacher Flavia declines.
Okay.
As I do what?
You can withdraw, you can stop sharing the screen, you give way to Mr. Semogere to thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't have the rights to share.
You don't have the rights.
I don't have the right to share. Okay.
The host has those rates.
Who is the host? Do you have Mr. Samogare?
I think it's
No.
Teacher Bato.
Mr. Bato, I know he's on call, I think.
But Charles, you can meanwhile go on.
Continue.
I want to exit and join with the phone because my laptop is shutting down. The challenge with this new system now, I can't join with the 2 gadgets. So I must go off, then again. But meanwhile, you can bring that one and we look at it. Yes, girls.
The diagram is there. The diagram is there. Mr.
Thank
Manin? Yes.
Yes, sir. Let me explain this very fast. If I go off,
So
it will
have you
be
seen the
because
screen?
I will be joining with them. Yes, it is possible. Now, point for me, roll the cursor around that orange. Is it orange? I have a color challenge. That part there. That region there, you can see, girls, that is called the tropical zone, where the temperatures are hot, warm and hot throughout the year. Then up that, or over and above that, we have the temperate zone. Now that temperate zone will come to this other map here. Let us get to this other map, the globe. Yes. Look at the location of North America now. On your left, that point. You realize it is above the Tropic of Cancer, and that puts it on this other first map, temperate zone. You can see. So it means that exactly. It means that the relationship, the climatic conditions in that region are different from the climatic conditions in the tropical zone. Now, what are the characteristics of the tropical zone? Then we move to the characteristics of the temperate. In the tropical zone, there is heavy rainfall, more especially along the equator there. Heavy rainfall throughout the year, which is well distributed. Along the equator, that is 5 degrees north and south of the equator. But as one moves away southwards, temperature reducing, rainfall also reduces up to 23.5 degrees north and south of the equator. Now, imagine the person who is over and above the 23.5 degrees north and south of the equator. That brings that region to be temperate region. It is a cool region during winter and very hot during summer. Summer, that is when the sun is at the Tropic of Cancer, that is in June, and it is in winter. Okay. It is at the Tropic of Capricorn in the southern hemisphere, because now the sun is in the south, the north is having less sunshine. What are the conditions therefore influencing the climate of this area? Latitudinal location, distance of the area in relation to the equator.
Mr. Mangen,
Yes.
I think when we handle this, girls need to know that when we're looking at the temperate regions, Of course, we saw that they lie between the tropics and the polar regions. But when it comes to the climate, as you're dealing with this, they experiences four
Yes.
seasons. The four seasons of winter, spring, summer, and autumn.
Very true.
You can proceed, sir.
Now, during winter, when we talk of winter, know that the sun is in the southern hemisphere. We are looking at North America. So when we talk of winter in North America, it means the sun is in the southern hemisphere. It is summer in the southern hemisphere, but it is winter in the northern hemisphere. That time temperatures are very low. They are very cold. They fall below the freezing point even. And precipitation at times is in the form of snow. Now, what causes that winter and summer is the movement of the sun around the movement of the earth around the sun. And here we are having the movement of the movement of the earth around. The other one would have been better. The movement of the earth around the sun. The earth makes a complete circle around the sun in one full year, 12 months, which is equivalent to 365.5 degrees, half days. So look at this slide. 21st June, that point there, we are having the sun in the northern hemisphere. And therefore, Canadian prairies is experiencing a lot of sunshine, which brings in summer. But we want to relate this to life. Life thrives with light and temperature plus water. Where the sun goes, it moves with its sunshine, temperature, and rainfall. We said that in winter, precipitation is in form of snow. In winter, because the temperatures have dropped. In summer, precipitation is now water droplets, rain. For the crops to grow, they need sunlight. For the crops to mature, they need hot temperature. For the fruits to ripen, they need sunshine. These conditions are in the northern hemisphere. On the Canadian prairies. We can now have the factors, and I explain the factors before I go out of this meeting.
Mr. Semoga, do you want to share?
I want to share this one, maybe can control the factors. I have something here. That's what you want? I have
Yes.
that part.
Now, I have already explained the latitude. I want to let you know that the major factor influencing climate in the world is the latitude, the distance of the area in relation to the equator. The nearer the area, the land to the equator, the hotter. Friends, I am out.
Sana Small, take over. Sana Small.
Is he still there?
No, teacher, we can take over, then we continue from there.
Okay, so we are looking at the factors that influence the climate of an area. In this case, we're actually looking at the climate of the Canadian Prairies. As Mr. Mangin was going off, he said the major factor that influences the climate of an area is actually the latitude, where we say that areas that are near the equator are warmer compared to those that are away from the equator. So in this case, when we look at the Canadian Prairies, we have already noted that it is in the temperate region and therefore far away from the equator. But the general description of the climate, we said it receives a temperate type of climate with extremes of hot conditions and then cold conditions.
Teacher Flavia.
I know. Is there someone saying something?
Teacher Flavia.
Mr.
Yes,
Mangin is
Mr.
back.
Mangin.
I
Continue,
am
Mr.
back. I am back in Erabada bus style. Now,
We'll start with altitude.
altitude, height of a place above sea level. We looked at the relief of the Canadian Prairies. The western side has a high altitude because it is neighboring the Rocky Mountains. It goes on gently sloping eastwards. What is the implication? It allows easy movement of the air masses, the winds, without any interruption along that. Now, we are having the aspect of relief alongside altitude. The higher the altitude, the cooler the area. Thus, the higher the altitude, the cooler the area. The lower the altitude, the hotter the area. You have always said, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes, because temperatures drop with the increase in altitude, meaning that the western part of the Canadian, where we have high altitude, next to the Rocky Mountains, that area experiences freezing cold temperatures. But we are going to see how these cold temperatures change all of a sudden to become hot temperatures. Now, we have what we call the air masses on that same point, the air masses. Africa is visited by 3 air masses generally. The northeast trade winds, you remember in history, we talked of the monsoon winds. Northeast trade winds, which originate from Arabia. Southeast trade winds, which originate from the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the westerlies, which originate from the Atlantic Ocean. We go to North America and specifically Canadian prairies. Air masses are classified into 2, cold air masses and hot air or warm air masses. Warm air masses, for them, they are light. They can move upwards. Cold air masses, they are heavy. So what happens?
Mr.
Are we fine?
There is a hand from Akero. I can say a hand from Akero. Akero on the line. I don't know. Mr. Mangin, continue. I think
Okay. Air masses are divided. Air masses, we are looking at wind. Wind. When it comes all of a sudden and it is heavy, it is in large number, large quantity, we call it a blizzard. Now, North America and specifically Canadian prairies is visited, just like Africa, is visited by 3 winds. Scroll and give me the winds. We have the tropical. Scroll and give me the winds.
Just a minute.
We have the tropical maritime winds. Actually, you give me the, I can get them off here. Give me the map. Give me the map of North America.
I'm there now. I'm there already.
Give me the map of North America to direct them where these winds come from.
Unless Teacher Flavia is going to share.
Teacher Flavia, you can share because on that slide,
Okay,
I put the map of North America.
Okay.
Girls, we are, but I can see the rate of exit is big. I don't know why. I want the map. I want the map up.
Akelo, your hand is up. I don't know. Either you left your hands up. I don't know.
Point.
Teacher, I have a question.
There is a question. Go ahead, please.
Teacher, on the point of altitude, does it only happen around mountainous areas, or as long as the area is above sea level, the altitude is present?
Actually, Akelo, good observation. Where is the sea coast? Along with the sea, the coastline. Now, when we are in Uganda, East Africa, our sea level point is the coast of East Africa, Mombasa, Malindi, Mogadishu. That is our sea level. The meeting point of water and the land, that is the sea level. Where in the meters, that is 0 degrees or 0 meters. Now, immediately you start from at that point along with the coast, it is hot because of the low altitude. The more you move into the interior, the more the temperatures change. And the more in the tropical region, for example, in Africa and specifically in East Africa, that explains why we have limited snow cover. That most of the areas of East Africa have a low altitude, which are hot. So they can't allow snow formation. But when you continue moving upwards in almost all in the whole world, the more you move upwards, the cooler it becomes. Now, this explains the existence and formation of snow on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Kenya, and Mount Rwenzori. So, does it only work in highland areas? The land of East Africa, Africa, and the world is not uniform. It keeps changing. When you go to Kasese, you will realize that it is very hot during the time. And even at night, because of the low altitude in Kasese, because it is on the slopes of Mount Rwenzori, and almost Kasese is within the Rift Valley. Oh, girls, let us travel together. Get me the cursor down in the bend where there is Mexico. Where down, this bend here, this gap here, exactly that point, that gap where there is a water body. The horn, that is what we call the Gulf of Mexico. That is the region where we have what we call the tropical maritime winds. They come from the tropical region, and we say that the tropical region is a hot region. Therefore, the tropical maritime winds are hot winds bringing hot temperatures. But remember, they are coming from a water body, which is Atlantic Ocean through the Gulf of Mexico. They have two characteristics. They are warm winds because they are coming from a hot region or a warm region. They are coming from a water body region, and therefore they have moisture. Second, go up where we have the Hudson Bay, up, continue up, outside. That is the water body there now. That is now a polar region. It is outside the tropic of the Arctic Circle. It is outside the Arctic Circle. So what is the condition there? It is a cold region. Whatever is coming there is a cold, it must be cold, transporting cold conditions. But where is it coming? It moves downwards. From the north, it is moving downwards. We said the tropical maritime winds, they are moving upwards, while the polar continental air mass, they are moving from up downwards. The two are going to meet. Where are they meeting from? They are meeting from the middle of the continent, which is the Canadian prairies, which is the central region. We say that the Canadian prairies stretches up to the central states of USA. So what is going to happen? Because these are two air masses charged with a different hydrogen ion. Okay, one is warm, which is the tropical maritime winds, and another one is cold, which is the polar continental north. When they meet, the warm air mass, which is the tropical maritime winds, because it is coming from a warm region, which is the tropical region, and it has moisture, it is going to meet the meeting point where these two winds, the cold air mass and the warm air mass, are meeting from. That is what we call the front. So these winds will cause frontal or cyclonic rainfall in Canada. How good is that rainfall? It causes rain, it leads to the growth of crops. We shall see. Then we have the third local wind, which influences the climate. It is known as the Chinook winds. I told you that East Africa is visited by the three winds: northeast trade winds, southeast trade winds, and the westerlies. In Africa, we are calling it the westerlies. They come from the Atlantic Ocean. In Europe, in North America, they come from the Pacific Ocean. In the West, go there. Exactly. Now, if they are coming from the West, what are the characteristics? These winds are coming from a water body. They have moisture. They are blowing to the mainland of North America. However, there is interplay, relief. Mountains, always areas that have got mountains, they have the windward and the leeward side. Now, this wind is coming from the west. Where there is red, British Columbia, that point there, we have what the highland is known as the Rockies. So this wind, the Chinook winds, are coming from the west, and the western part of Canada, therefore, is the what? The windward side. Therefore, this winds will cause rainfall on the western side of the Rocky Mountains in British Columbia. What happens with them? By the time they cross the Rocky Mountains to come to blue, is it green, Alberta? Green. That point, yes. These winds have already lost moisture.
due to the rainfall formation in the west. But these Rocky Mountains have snow, they are snow capped because of their location in the temperate region. So these are dry, hot, dry, descending wind, Chinook winds. Hot because they have lost the moisture. Dry, they have lost the moisture, leading to the formation of clouds that resulted into rainfall in British Columbia on the windward side. By the time they cross, they are already dry and hot, making the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains, which Rocky Mountains have snow, the snow to start to melt. Where when it is melting, this wind continues to blow, to move through Alberta, Saskatchewan. They are inside there. They are already hot winds. Therefore, they rise, they make the temperatures of the area to rise because of being hot. Characteristics of leeward areas, they have hot temperatures. What is causing the hot temperatures in this region, Canadian prairies? Because the Chinook winds have crossed the Rocky Mountains, and therefore they make the areas to experience hot temperatures. Which hot temperatures? They are very necessary for maturation of crops. Yes, there is a question. Give me another factor.
Daphne has a question.
Excuse me, teacher. Can they
Yes.
name the winds, like they draw arrows and they tell you name these winds?
You are a bright girl. You are a very bright girl. No, you are a very bright girl that you have even seen how the question can be said. It is very much possible. That is why I asked for the map to show you. So if you have a map of North America, you can include those winds and name them respectively. I have looked at the local winds, how they influence the climate. I think
Mr.
that is
Semoge, slide 11. Distance.
Then we have the distance from the sea, continentality. We girls at primary, we have part of factors influencing climate of the area, and you hear of the water body, the influence of the water body, the sea and the land breeze. Areas which are close to the water body will experience rainfall, the rain which we call convectional rainfall. Where is the Canadian prairies? The Canadian prairies is far away from the continent. Which continent? We have the Atlantic Ocean in the east. We have the Pacific Ocean in the west. Therefore, it does not experience that advantage of having convectional rainfall because of it is a location away or in the interior of the continent. But now what happens is the rain it receives is as a result of the Great Lakes region, Superior Michigan Huron area and Ontario, through the sea and the land breeze. They cause a lot of rainfall, which rainfall is received, thereby supporting the crop cultivation in the interior. Then we have the influence of the vegetation. Definitely, you know very well that vegetation is one of the factors that influence climate. And how does it evapotranspiration? Areas with thick vegetation experience high rates of evapotranspiration, resulting into the formation of clouds and thereby receiving rains. Over to you, Teacher Flavia. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Mangen. Mr. Mangen has taken us through actually last week it was through the relief, and today the climate, both the characteristics and then the different factors that influence the climate of the Canadian Prairies. Of course, with this one you are revising because it was part of the introduction of North America, where you looked at the factors that influence the climate of North America. Probably today it was so specific and we're dealing with the Canadian Prairies. We want to look at the soils of the Canadian Prairies. Probably this would explain the economic activities that are carried out in this area. Mr. Semoved, I think it might be slide 14.
No, it is you now because I don't have.
You don't have the soils. Go to your slide 14 and we see.
Slides, do not share. Because I don't know. It is you now to share.
Okay.
Hope girls, you have added information on those factors. As Mr. McGinn was explaining, hope you have been noting down something in your books about the factors influencing climate. Thank you, Mr. McGinn.
The soils of this region, first of all, we are noting that they mainly have the black soils. Not only are they black, but we're seeing the black, deep, fertile soils with adequate humus, meaning that these soils are fertile and favorable for the growth of the different crops, as we shall be seeing the different crops that are grown in this region. We are also noting that these soils resulted from glacial deposition. This is a process under glaciation where materials are eroded from highlands to the lowlands. So they are usually deposited in the lowlands. Though a few of them can be deposited somewhere in the mountains, but deposition normally happens in the lowlands, and all the fertile soils or the top soils that have been washed away into the lowlands, they would actually contribute to the fertility of the soils in those areas. So we're saying such soils have supported cultivation in the region. However, we can't say, or we can't run away from erosion as much as we're talking about glacial deposition, but we're saying that these soils in some areas have actually been eroded away, especially where we have the gentle slopes and in some of the lowlands. Would still discuss and see that still with that issue, they have tried to work on it by planting trees and also coming up with a different ways in which they can control soil erosion. The vegetation. The vegetation of this region. We have already looked at the climate of the Canadian Prairies, where we noted that the region experiences the temperate type of climate. And usually the climate is in line with the vegetation. So again, we are saying that the Canadian Prairies experience the temperate type of vegetation. Did I hear someone say, teacher? Okay. So we're saying that the region experiences the temperate type of vegetation, and it is mainly characterized by temperate grasslands. When we talk about temperate grasslands, you would find that you have mainly grass in this area and a few trees. Sometimes you might even get to a certain area where you could hardly see any of the trees. So here we're saying they have less trees, but they have more of the grasses. We are also noting that with the different climatic regions, the areas that receive heavy rainfall, you'd find that the grasses are very tall, yet those that receive moderate rainfall have shorter grasses. I think that's enough for about vegetation, and then the
There is
soils.
a somebody. Probably somebody. I don't know. Who's that? I don't know.
You can't see the
There's a
person.
person that no, I can't see the person. Mr. Nashimol, are you there?
From
Mr.
the chat.
Nashimol?
In
Teacher
the chat,
Julie.
I'm only seeing that Chikoni wins.
Teacher Julie, are you there?
The person unmuted
Teacher
by
Julie, are you
mistake
there?
and she muted again.
Teacher Julie, can you?
I'm
Okay, Teacher
hearing.
Julie, can you talk about soil resulting from glacial deposition? What is that? I think somebody is asking about that.
What is the question?
I think to do with us, how they result from glacial deposition the soils.
Because Teacher Juliet, we
How
said
does-
that the fertility
He's
of the
talking
soils
about
in this region were contributed because of the glacial deposition.
glacial
And someone is
deposition.
trying to ask how they come from glacial deposition. Definitely, like you explained it, Teacher Flavia, when material is deposited, this material over time is going to, because the material that is eroded and deposited, it composes of so many things, pebbles, rocks, silt, and all that. So with time, this material, remember, I don't know if this class has looked at soil formation. Yeah, we are going to have, if we have rocks or stones, they're going to break down with time and they are going to turn into soil. But because this material comprises of so many things that have been eroded, the soils that are going to be formed at the end of the day are likely to be fertile because they comprise of a lot of things and are going to be fertile. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Teacher Judy. Do you have any other questions, Mr.
Mr.
Semogene?
Mangen, are you there? Mr. Mangen?
I don't know.
From the north southwards. Then for the tropical, arrows should be running from where that cursor has been down, that is the Gulf of Mexico, upwards.
Mr. Mangen, just a minute. Teacher
Yes,
Flavia,
sir,
can
done.
you use the pen to give them the direction?
Unfortunately, I don't
Teacher
have
Flavia, my
access to
sister,
the
can you
pen.
use the pen?
I don't have access to the pen. That's why I was using the cursor so that they can just look at it. Otherwise, I should have used it a long time ago. Any other thing, Mr. Semogene?
Girls will put the arrows there next time, okay? Because you cannot use a pen to do that. Let's have access. So Teacher Flavia, you can continue. Yeah. Because they are looking at it, because they are asking for the direction. So you have the pen now. That is the direction, that is one. Mr. Mangen, as we're explaining. Mr. Mangen, as we're explaining.
The girls are interested in seeing the arrows. There is this arrow that has been drawn in red downwards. That is the hot tropical.
Okay.
Then the one that has been drawn from up downwards, they are meeting in the land. That is a cold air mass. So when the cold air mass meets with the hot air mass, they meet at a point known as the front, resulting into the hot or warm air mass rising up, while the cold air mass deflects down, making the cold air mass, which is moist laden, to cause what we call cyclonic or depressional or frontal rainfall. While the Chinook winds are coming from the west to the mainland, and we are saying that they influence the climate of the central region of North America by, first of all, making the snow on top of the Rocky Mountains to melt. That is why you are talking of glaciated soils. When it's snow melts, the melt water runs down, carrying all the soils that have been weathered on its way, and it lays it down in the lowland, which lowland we saw that the altitude, the relief of the Canadian prairies is undulating, is gently, and it allows easy movement of material by gravity. So that land is that soil that is deposited is covering the areas of the Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And it is that has allowed the growing of crops in that area. The Chinook wind, because it is descending winds, it makes the areas in central US, central North America, Canadian prairies to rise. I'm done.
Mr. Semoge, anything you want to add? Okay.
Dear girls, thank you, Mr. Mange. Dear girls, the spell you're asking for tropical winds, do the polar winds, you have them in your notes. Please, they are there in your notes. Read the notes, you get those terms, whatever you're talking about. Cyclonical winds, it's there in the notes. Please read. You get those terms.
Rainfall.
Yes, they are there in your notes. We are just now explaining.
Maybe Mr. Semoge, those that are asking, they actually don't have the notes, maybe.
But we posted the notes on the Google class long time ago. Okay? Please, if you don't have the notes, please go to the Google class. We find the notes. Thank you. Continue, Mr. Flavia, Michela Flavia.
I like that title. We should be looking at the types of farming or land use in the Canadian prairies, but I don't know how much time we have. Do we have enough
2
time?
minutes.
We'll have 2
2
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
You people just started.
You have 2 minutes.
We have just started. Mr. Semoge.
Teacher Flavia.
You have 2
Yes,
minutes.
Mr. Mangen.
I kindly request that you introduce to us the land use activities, you identify them, and you give them to the girls so that they do research. We shall start from there after them reading through and understanding.
Types of farming carried out in the Canadian prairies. We have 3 main types of farming. The first one is extensive grain farming. Under extensive grain farming, you would find that it's mainly the growing of grains, but I want us to look out for the definition of extensive. When we say extensive farming, what do we mean by extensive farming? And what are some of the characteristics of this type of farming? Then from there, we have intensive farming. Still, I want you to come up with a definition of intensive farming and some of the characteristics of intensive farming. Then we have mixed farming. We have all practiced or seen people carrying out mixed farming. growing
Thank you,
of
everybody.
crops,
Thank you guys
and
for
rearing of
attending.
animals.
Have a blessed day.
So let's go in for a break, and then, but before we go, can we have a closing prayer? Before we go, we shall start from there. Next time, please come when you have read through your notes. Ntongo, give us the closing prayer.
Let's have our souls for our prayer. Oh Lord God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for everything you've given us, Lord. We thank you for the time you've
What happened?
Ntongo, we are losing you.
What happened? Already leaving.
Ntongo, we can't hear anything. Jemima, Mwesigwa, I can see your microphone is open. Leah?
God and Father in heaven, we thank you for today. We thank you for the lessons. We thank you for what brought us learn for the lessons. We pray that you guide us not to forget. Give us a great day and help us with the rest of the lessons. In Jesus' name we prayed and believed.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jemima.
Amen.
You're welcome.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Aloha. Oh my.